I mean, I don't care.
It would be a good resource, I feel like.
Okay.
Okay, we are live. We are live. Um, Welcome to this week's team call, and we have a guest speaker, Claire. And you guys, Claire is so dear to my heart. What you've been coaching for? What, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years?
2014. I know.
I can't believe I've been for 9. I feel like it's gone like this. It's so crazy. Um, but before we jump into her story and what she is going to be talking about tonight, I wanted to give you guys a couple updates. The first thing is this Monday we're having, Misfit, Joelle is having her Misfit and Mingle for like anybody who you have that's interested in coaching. And I feel like this is a great resource to use for any of you guys who are talking to people about coaching that you think would be great at coaching and you don't know like what to say, what to send, what to do. Invite them to the Misfit and Mingle and let Joelle do the talking. And I don't know who's going to be on with her this week, but that's a great resource to invite to. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but Beachbody came out with this like new bundle. It's called the Weekender.
I saw
And
that.
yeah, I saw it in the back office and I haven't really done my research on it to see what the volume is on it, because that would be sweet if it was like 50 PV and it was something that could like keep people active. Maybe I'll do the research while you're talking.
Yeah.
So that's something really cool. It's kind of like a sampler. Basically, it's like a sampler of Beach Bars, Energize, Recover, and Hydrate, I think. There's
I
no
think
Shakeology in there, but it's like a weekender, things you would need, for the weekend, for the weekend. So I thought that was really, really cool to have them create like a bundle like that. And I think that's really all I had for updates, were just those two things. So, oh, my little man is probably going to come in too.
oh,
So I'm going to hand it over to Claire. Hold on one second. No, you're not playing with your girls right now, honey. Okay, hold on one second. And she is going to share her story and kind of like this big epiphany she's had over the last, I would say like week we've been talking about this, but it's probably
yeah.
been longer for you going through the process. And she shared it with me this week or last week, and I was like, we need to talk about this because I feel like this is an issue that like I know I had, and that I know a lot of my coaches that I talk to have this issue too. And I think it's just going to be really awesome from them hearing from you instead of me regurgitating it. So
Right.
I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to mute me for 2 seconds so you guys don't have to hear Gray cry, but take.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, I'm Claire. I've been a Beachbody coach for 6 years. And okay, so just a little bit about my story. I feel like it's really important to say this. So, I have a history of abuse and trauma in my life. When I was a child, I had a very abusive father. Then I went, and so as a child, I processed that abuse and I took responsibility for it. I thought that I must be doing something wrong, therefore I'm being hit. Therefore I'm not being loved. Okay. And all of this has kind of come to me in my therapy. I hired a counselor like a month ago, and she's been helping me immensely. And then, so I never really processed that trauma with my dad and from my childhood, just because I never had the support. I never had anybody say like, hey, why don't you look into that? Right. It was just kind of thrown under the rug. And then, so after that, I ended up marrying a man who is a schizophrenic. I had no clue then. So as you can tell, our marriage was very manipulative, because that's just how they are. It was very up and down. It was very dramatic all the time. No real emotional connection. Our sex was very flat. It was just very traumatic. Then so about 2016, I hired a therapist to help me with money and just some things regarding my Beachbody business, and he ended up abusing me as well. very emotionally, he got in him and I engaged in a relationship that should never have happened. It was incredibly inappropriate and incredibly damaging. And I don't think I really realized to what extent. And then, so fast forward. Okay. And so like through all of this, right? I joined Beachbody in 2014, and then that happened in 2016. Pretty much for that entire time, I had been running my business from a place of pretty like just control, right? I was just controlling. I was attempting to control everything because I had such a sense of responsibility to it, right? If something goes wrong, it's my fault. If somebody says no, it's my fault. If somebody doesn't, have the results that they're looking for, it's my fault. If the sky falls, it's my fault, right? If it was just this complete over sense of responsibility for literally everything. And so what that did was, if somebody said no, I took it personally, and I did not want them to say no, because then I was like, it's my fault. And so I was so busy trying to change people, trying to, so we hear the term battle objections all the time, right? Well, I took that to the nth degree, and I would just like, if like somebody said no to me, I would just like boom, 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 boom. And I was like annoying, and they would block me and all these things, right? And, but it was coming from this space where like, I was just so focused on trying to get the sale, because I thought the sale and the money and all, in this big team was going to make me happy. I thought it was going to fill a void in me that I have had since I was a young girl, right? I didn't have love, I didn't have all of those things that I so desperately wanted. And I sought them in all other areas of my life: men, sex, money, food. And Beachbody was no different, right? A team for me meant it was going to fill this void. And so fast forward, I ended up just quitting Beachbody, not actually quitting, but quitting the business side for a while. I was still a coach, but I remember telling Lauren, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's way too stressful. And it was. I was spinning my wheels. I was just spin. I was getting nowhere because it wasn't coming from an authentic place, and I was never going to grow much past where I was. So my husband and I, around that time, we had also decided to get a divorce. He went crazy, was hospitalized in a mental facility. And he abandoned our family. He like fled the city, and he was a missing person, and it was this whole dramatic thing. And there was Claire left and abandoned again. And I went into shock and trauma and mania, and I just did all of these things, and that were just like awful. For not awful because like I was a bad person for doing them, but they were like awful, like they just made me feel awful. And it was like in that moment, I abandoned everything that was good. I abandoned Beachbody, which had been like the one thing that had given me hope. The very first day that I joined, I remember Beachbody gave me just this incredible hope. And I abandoned like my family and friends, and I just like shut everybody out. When he did that, it was just like the response that I had to the trauma. And I got into sex work and prostitution and all these things to pay our bills, because he was the sole provider, and I didn't believe that I had the support. So I did all of these things to make money, anything I could find, random things even, and I made a lot of money. I did, but at a cost, because I traumatized myself even more. I literally was like selling my body, everything I had, to make money. And in hindsight, I'm like, I could have leaned in to the support that I already had in place, but I just didn't believe I had it. It was like a blind spot for me. And so, fast forward. So this was last summer, and, and a couple months ago, I guess just something in me started to kind of come back alive, right? Because I'm an incredibly smart human. Like I am smart. I know what is right and what is wrong for me. And I started to just get this sense of like, this isn't really going anywhere. This is going to end up really badly. I'm going to end up with, pregnant or an STD or in a gutter somewhere. Like this is not going to end up good. And I'm a mom, a single mom at that. And I was like, I got to get my shit together. And so I remember I was just sitting there and I was like, because a friend of mine had said, she said, because she is now a full-time artist. And she said, her life was almost parallel to mine. And she said to me, Claire, I laid in my bed one night and I just told God that I would do anything to achieve my dreams. And so I did that. I just sat there, and you guys, I was raised a Christian, but it was a really abusive type of Christianity, if you will. Like I was threatened with hell if I wasn't good and just all these things. And so me and God have never been like homies because there was so much trauma, right? I didn't trust God because I was always really, painted this picture of this man who didn't love me. He just wanted to punish me and put me in hell if I wasn't good. But that's a whole other call. But so I laid him in my bed and I was like, God, I will do anything to make my dreams come true. And I heard, and this is where like I'm such a believer in God anymore, because God showed up for me like right when I decided to see him. He had been there the whole time. I just had been ignoring him. And he said, you need to cut men out of your life. And so with that was money as well, because that was my source of income. And I was like, great. Okay. So you want me to get rid of men and money? Cool. Okay. Oh my God. And it was like terrifying for me because I had relied on my husband for money and love and right. And I had men and money were like my addictions. That's how I felt good in a really unhealthy way. And so I was like, okay, fine. So I instantly stopped everything I was doing. I still have a platform that I'm getting ready to shut down, but it was just like a little bit of residual income that was helping. So I just kind of left it alone, but I didn't add to it or anything like that. I literally just like stopped everything that I was doing, any type of, active seeking of men and money. And I was also polyamorous through all of this. So, and I had to wipe all of that out too. And I realized that was just another way to feed my addiction, right? And so, all of that being said, I've been healing a lot, and I've been sharing with Lauren as I do this. And so for me, so I've been sex free. I even have a boyfriend kind of, but he's very supportive through all of this. And so I'm sex free and I was money free, and I wasn't really doing anything. Luckily I had a savings from when we sold our house to, just to kind of tide me over. So yeah, I just quit it all, and I've been healing a lot. And what I realized was what Lauren and I think I mentioned earlier, was just that, I was really trying to fill this void with Beachbody and money and a team and all these other things. And so what I realized, cutting it all out and kind of like having a larger perspective of things, is I was so focused on controlling people and getting them to sign up so I would feel good. I was completely ignoring them and what they needed, right? I wasn't loving them. I wasn't, showing grace for them or, acceptance or anything like that. And I certainly wasn't showing it for myself, right? When we're so busy trying to get things to make us feel good, we forget how to just make ourselves feel good. And how do you feel good, right? Beachbody, because they offer almost all of it, right? They offer workouts and supplements and, nutrition plans and a support system. Like Lauren and a couple of Lauren and, some people I have had incredible support through Beachbody over the past 6 years, right? It's been incredible. And so the one thing in hindsight that I should have leaned into when it got tough was Beachbody. And instead I leaned away. And it's okay because I learned a lot. I got so much because now I know very, very clearly what I don't want. And what I don't want is to make money in a way that doesn't feel good. And I know that I can make money for myself and for my children from a space I believe that money is a reflection of when we feel good, right? So think about it. Like when you have an amazing transformation within this company, what happens? People sign up. It's just a natural byproduct because they feel that you feel good. They feel that you are doing that whatever you're doing is making you feel good, and everybody just wants to feel good. And it's in a healthy way too. It's not this, sick, twisted kind of so there's two different sides to the coin, right? There's two different sides. There's Beachbody coaches or anybody really, right, that we're operating from this control space. And then there's those of us that operate from filling our own cup first and allowing that to spill over. And one is called survival, I think, and the other one is called thrival, right? I just kind of made that up, but survival is when you're just constantly frantically trying to fill your cup just with whatever the fuck you can throw in it. And then you have thrival, which you're consistently giving yourself what you need on a daily basis. And you feel good and you feel stable. And then eventually your cup becomes full and overflows. And then you have enough for everybody. Well, I mean, you know what I mean? You have enough for you and the people closest to you, and you have enough to give back. But when you're in survival, you can't even provide for yourself, let alone anybody else. So that just all kind of came out of me, Lauren. I don't know if there's anything else that we said.
Yeah, that was good. I had took notes too, just on things I wanted to talk about, points from what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I think when you were talking about the whole controlling thing, we hear so much, don't convince people. You don't want to convince people to join, because then you have to convince somebody to join as a customer or with Shakeology or Beachbody On Demand. You have to convince them then to start showing up. And
yes.
you have to start convincing them to check into your group. And then you have to convince, it's a constant convincing game. And it's the same with bringing on coaches. If you have to convince them to become a coach, then you're going to have to convince them to show up. You're going to have to convince, and that is not what we want. And I think that's the same with the control aspect. You're trying to control them to join you, convince. So that that popped into my head right away. I was like, yeah, because we always hear you don't want to control or you don't want to convince people.
And it's so then you spend your entire business and your entire day it's a monster that feeds itself.
Right. And I think something to think about with that too is what kind of women do you, or men, if you want to work with men, and not just you, but in general, you guys who are watching this too, what kind of women do you want to work with? Do you want to work with women who are always wishy-washy? They don't know what they want. What if you want to work with women who are passionate, driven, they know what they want, they're business savvy, they're not wishy-washy. Those women you won't have to convince to join, right? They're probably already they see the opportunity and they're ready to go. Where somebody who isn't maybe ready yet, you'd have to convince them. And I feel if you wait with those people and just continue building the relationship, and don't take it personal that they're saying no, but keep showing up in your own journey like you were talking about, they will eventually come around, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. But if we stay consistent with, like you said, getting results in our own journey and sharing that, the people around you that are saying no right now, they're watching, and we don't need to convince them. They'll come around when they're ready, if this is even the right thing for them. If it's not, that's fine too. So I think that's something to remember.
Yeah. And other thing because I feel like it's really super important, I have to look at this and I had to say, Claire, like, so I think of everything in terms of a relationship, right? With money, with Beachbody, with, a boyfriend, with a husband, with, your kids, with God. Everything is a relationship. Like, it's how you interact, and it's a healthy relationship or it's an unhealthy one. And I completely lost my train of thought. What did you say? This is something.
I don't even know what I said.
Oh, I had to say,
Convincing?
no, I sometimes I just go completely blank. I had to say, is Beachbody a good fit for me? Like, are their morals and values, are they mine, right? Are they my morals and values? Like, can I love this company? Like, do I stand behind their products? Do I stand behind what they're about? And I had to get real with myself, because sometimes no, like, well, I mean, but like for me, yes, but there are some coaches out there who just, joined or whatever, and because they got convinced or whatever, right? But it was not for them. And, you try and you try and you try to, like, hammer this square peg in a round hole or whatever, and it's just never going to work. And so sometimes it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but it's just that you just aren't lining up. So that's a huge thing to look at too, I think.
I think in taking it personal, like not taking it personal, like take you out of the equation.
Right.
I feel like it's our job is to work on us, right? Share that journey, give that opportunity to other people. That's it. We're not here to convince. We're not here to try and drag people along. And that for me, what took, like, there's still times where I'm like, I need to stop trying to drag people. Like that's not part of what we do. I also want to say, like, I've had a lot of coaches over the last 9 years that, like, come in on as coaches and they've had results with Beachbody, but it wasn't quick enough. And then they start doing other things that are, like, more quick fixy. And that's okay too. Like, it's their own journey and that's fine. But, like, I stand behind what we offer with Beachbody 150%, because I'm about, like, working out and eating healthy. Like, I'm just not about all the quick fix stuff. Like, I'm about those two things to get, like, results with health and fitness. So if somebody's coming to me and they're like, drink this whatever and lose weight, drink this pill, wear this sticker, whatever, right away I'm like, hell no, that's not going to help you long term. And for me, it's like, I think it's just like education and just my life in general, like my background and watching my mom, like, work hard and my dad work hard with, like, health and fitness, whatever, like, that's just ingrained in me. It's not a quick fix. Like, that's just a mentality I have. So, like, for me too, I have to look at people who I'm talking to and being like, okay, what is this person, like, sharing? Are they talking about quick fix stuff? And that could be a whole nother call just about, like, talking about your avatar and stuff like that. But another thing I talked about wrote down was when you were talking about how you said, when things were hard, you wish you would have leaned in instead of leaned out. And I think this is a huge important topic, because I know I see it with a lot of coaches I talk to and work with, is when things get hard, whether they're moving, they're pregnant, they've had loss, they're going through divorce, they're X, Y, and Z, like a ton of things, they step back. And I think, and I don't want to say that's the worst thing you can do, because I don't want it to sound like selfish in a way that, like, it's only business, but like when I think about stepping in and leaning in, it means continue to work on you and continue to show up for you and continue to share that journey when you're going through the hard thing. Because I feel like that builds relationships with people, that builds trust with other people, because they still see you showing up when it's hard, and that can build that trust with them. That can show them that, like, hey, Claire is going through this hard stuff, but she's still showing up for herself, and she's still sharing this journey. I can do that. Where when we step back and we stop posting, we stop working on us, and we stop sharing, like, people don't know what we're going through. And I think about, like, over the last 9 years that I've been a coach, we've been through a lot of crazy stuff. And I feel like Beachbody and Nick and God, those two things aside, like Beachbody has been the one thing that has been a rock in my life for the last 9 years. And it's not because of like business and money, and it's just like community. And it's the one thing I knew I could pour into that made me feel good.
Girl.
And I think when we can look at our business like that, like it's the one thing you can pour into besides, like I said, you know, your spouse or God, that can make you feel good when life is hard. You know, you've hit a jackpot. And if you don't look at your business and Beachbody that way, like Claire said, like think about it. Can you line up with their mission? Can you line up with our purpose and our business, the stuff we have to offer? And if you can't, that's fine. You probably won't see a lot of success with it because you won't be aligned with it. So I really love that. Another thing you said that I wrote down is when you guys start getting results and you share those results, your business will start getting results. Like it's a mirror. And I can attest for that. Like I can tell you when I am not getting results in my health and fitness, my business is very stagnant.
Yep.
And so it just kind of like is a mirror of like, work on your, and I don't know how many businesses you can say that is this, where it's like, you work on yourself with our stuff and you share your journey, your business will grow if you're like talking to people. And then the other thing that came to mind when you were talking about survival and thrival, which I really love that, thrival, was kind of like when you're baking a cake. And, you know, you were talking about like survival and just kind of throwing everything at it. And I think about like when you're baking a cake or you're baking something and you're like, don't have a recipe and you're just kind of like throwing shit in the pan, throw it in the oven and like, you don't know what, who knows? But when you're like in survival, is that what you said? Thrival, you're following a recipe, you have the right ingredients, you know what you're doing, and your cake will turn out. So I don't know why that analogy came to my mind. Maybe I need to make a cake, but
it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. It's a really good way to see it because when you're just, you know, just scrambling, trying to get stuff together, it's going to be messy as fuck. Right. It takes time and it takes work and it takes consistency and patience and focus. Focus has been, oh my God, because I was so like crazy after he left. My focus was everywhere.
Well, and I think you went into survival. You went into survival mode. You went into like working from a place of lack because you were like, and you were like all over the place trying to make money in all these different ways. Because I'm sure your brain was like, shit, how am I going to keep my kids alive? How am I going to get food for my family? How am I going to do this? And your brain just goes crazy where it's like, I can make money here. I can make money here. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do this. And I feel like when we're focused on like 20 different things, we're really not focused.
No.
So, and I think that, go ahead.
No, sorry, what?
I think that's like what you said today was when you boxered me and you were like, I'm committed. Like I'm all into my business and I'm going to just do my business instead of being like, I'm going to try and do this and I'm going to try and do this and I'm going to try and do this, all separate things. And we were talking about how like you can let your business fund whatever comes in the future. And I think that's why you guys see a lot of top coaches and a lot of like 6-figure, 7-figure earners in this business start clothing brands, start their own other, like I think about Michelle Myers, and she works her way, like that's a whole, like she has her own like Christian brand. You see people, like I said, having clothing brands. They have just other things they're able to fund or start or create because of the financial success. I don't know if I want to put that word there, but the financial part that came, the financial opportunity that came with growing their business.
For sure.
Yeah.
The way that I've seen it is it's all about commitment, right? Like, and feel like how we are in one area, we are in all areas. And I was not committed to my husband, clearly. I was not committed to myself. I was not committed to Beachbody. I was not committed to lots of things. And that was the other thing. God was like, you need to start to commit to some shit, because I was like literally just like dipping my toe in all these little things to feel good. And then once it started to get real, I was like, next and next. And I was just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is in any relationship, there's a level of intimacy that you achieve when you commit. And in a business like this, that is actually, that reflects as dollar bills.
Mm-hmm.
And that reflects as growth,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like team grows, or you grow, or you're, you know, whatever. And like in a marriage, right, when you commit, the intimacy in a marriage, your marriage grows and becomes, and so it's all right. I didn't, my commitment level was just like non-existent.
I think too, you can have like a surface level commitment level, and you can have a in-depth commitment level. And kind of like you said, like,
That's true.
I feel like the surface level is like you're doing the daily things, but you're not really diving into growth. You're not really diving into figuring out your shit. You're not really diving into like figuring out why you are the way you are, and why things trigger you, and why you have these limiting beliefs, and what things, you know, like, I feel like that's the work. When you hear coaches talking about like, it took work, it's not, it took, yeah, it takes talking to people and inviting people and showing up in your stories and getting results, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like the work is changing here. Yep. Because you cannot be the same person today. Wait, I'm going to butcher this. You cannot be, how does that saying go? I feel like it was in my head and it was like on fire, and now I'm just like that, butchered it. You cannot go where you want to go being the same person you are today.
Yep. Something like that.
Close. Yeah. So that means we have to change here. And that's, I know for me, it took me a long time to decide that, like, instead of just reading personal development, I had to get clear on like, what am I struggling with? And I had to read and listen to things that like challenged me, and invest in different things that asked me questions, like mentors that asked me questions that dug deep into like, well, like all the question stuff. And I feel like that's the biggest part of growth. And like when we continually to grow and when we continuously grow, our business will grow. My brain is like,
right.
This reflection cannot keep up.
It is a reflection of us. And I was very, like you said, I had surface level commitment. And I love that, because it's not that I wasn't committed. That's not true. Because I was also committed in my marriage for a certain amount of time, but it was very surface. I did just the things that I was supposed to do. You know, I checked all the boxes, and I did all the things, but like, I wasn't actually looking here. And then when I hired my counselor, I feel like that's when she was able to like, just go deep and yank out these roots that have just been, you know, controlling my life. And so yeah, I mean, you absolutely, yeah. And then as we grow as people, then our businesses grow. It's really, but that's the hard work. Unfortunately, anybody can check off some boxes.
Well, and think about like when you were just checking off boxes, you got to diamond, you had success,
and I made,
yeah. And we talked about this earlier too, about how like when we were hitting big numbers, sending out a bajillion invites, we were, like hitting huge Success Club numbers, seeing success. But now looking back, like those people, where they're not here. It didn't grow my income to keep like
temporarily.
Right. Like it didn't grow my income deep. It was just the surface level, because it was a surface level commitment. So
that whole surface level commitment versus the deeper level commitment, that's a big thing. Maybe like a whole other topic on that, or a whole other call.
Yeah. I just made that up. So
I know.
I should probably write that down.
Write that down. Super, super good. Because I think that can fool people, right? They're like, I'm committed, you know, because that's what I thought. I was like, I'm committed to Beachbody. Why isn't this working? Well, because all of it is just barely scratching the surface.
Right. For sure. And I was the same way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think most people are, unless you come in here like somebody who, and I think that's probably why you see certain coaches who like fucking shoot out the gate and they're making money and their teams are flourishing and they're doing, because they have already probably done this work.
Right.
Maybe, right, when they went to college, or they worked with a counselor prior, or, maybe they just never had the trauma. Because I had a bunch of trauma, but maybe, maybe that just was never part of their story. And
Right.
it's great for them.
Or,
And they have,
go ahead.
like Bonnie Engel, she had struggles with infertility or whatever, right? And like everyone has their own struggles, and sometimes it's just not reflective in their business. Sometimes you see them making all this money and you see them growing their teams, but yet they have other struggles. So that helps me to know that I'm not alone, But
And I think, when we hear that coaches are working all these hours, I can guarantee that the hours they're working isn't sitting on social media.
Oh, hell no.
Hours they're working and pouring into themselves with personal growth, with investing in, hiring a coach or a therapist or a mentor that's going to challenge them. They're diving into trainings, and not Beachbody trainings, but trainings to better their skills. That's where they're spending their time. They're not spending 8 hours sitting on Facebook messaging people.
No.
And if they were, I don't want to build a business like that. So they're doing that work. So when you do see these coaches who, that's probably, they spent a lot of time up front doing that work to change here. And that's where they saw what we thought was quick success, but really they were putting in that work early to do it, instead of read 10 minutes of a book a day. That 10 minutes of a book that's not gonna dig deep here.
I had to literally make it my full-time job for the last 4 years to dig into, and again, I had excessive trauma.
Right.
Life. Not everybody's story is that way, and not everybody is going to have that much to work through, but it had to be my full-time job.
Right.
And it may not have taken me 4 years if I had somebody who knew how to properly guide me.
Right.
It probably would have taken me far less, which is the other thing, is don't rely solely on Beachbody to be your training and to be yours. Like, you got to look outside of Beachbody, because then that gets really like codependent and weird thing, because Beachbody cannot be your absolute everything.
Right. I agree. And I think like that will help make you unique, not just getting training from Beachbody, but finding there's a ton of a bajillion people out there that have different type of trainings that will help you, life coach training, whatever, like a ton of stuff. And I think finding that coach or that mentor that meshes with you and then diving into their stuff is huge, because that will help kind of like, it makes you different than all the other coaches out there that are just listening to Beachbody trainings.
Right. Do the work. I feel like that's the theme of this is do the work.
Mm-hmm. And the work is here. It's not just here.
Yeah, like that needs to be really ingrained.
Right. And I think like, you still need to be talking to people, because you have to be connecting with people. But I think if you're being, and I know like, one of my coaches, Brandy, is going Emerald tomorrow, and I was talking to her about this, and I asked her what had changed for her, because she's been a coach for a while and she's going Emerald. And I was like, what has changed? And she said she finally feels like she's just got this. And I was like, okay, well, like what's changed? And she's like, well, I'm being honest, really honest with my posts, and it's becoming easier to connect with people. And I was like, yes, girl.
Yes.
Because when your posts are honest and raw and real, your people are going to connect with that. And it's so much easier to connect with those people who get where you're coming from than just being like, workout done, sweaty selfie, post it on social media. Like, how do you connect with anybody from that? You can't.
Everyone.
Right. Everybody does that. So when you're raw and real and you have something behind your picture that can connect with people, it's going to be a lot easier to actually connect with people.
Right.
So that's a
absolutely
side rant to this whole thing too. But probably end there, because that was, I feel like, a lot of good stuff.
Oh my.
So thanks you guys for jumping on. If you guys have any questions watching the recording, let us know. You can comment in the comments below. Otherwise, I am going to put this up on the YouTube channel too that we have, that I haven't uploaded a video to in a long time, but we have it. So we will talk to you next week. Thanks, Claire, for getting on. You can stay on. I think I can just end some.
Yeah, I want to talk to you.
Oh, and I need to end recording.